Welcome, everyone, to the Child Anxiety FAQ podcast. And FAQ stands for Frequently Asked Questions, and I'm answering your questions about child and teen anxiety. My name is Dawn Friedman, and I've been working with kids and families for more than 3 decades as a preschool teacher, parent educator, family case manager, clinical counselor, and now as the owner and operator of Child Anxiety Support, a program where I coach parents of anxious kids. This week's question is, I am super busy. How can I prioritize working on my child's anxiety? This is a question I get a lot, some version of it in the various social media channels I'm on. People will DM me and say, just tell me one thing I can do. I'm really, really busy. And to this I say, the one thing is, stop avoiding your child's anxiety. That's it. That's the key to anxiety, is not avoiding the things that make you anxious. But of course, there's a lot more to it than that. And I get that parents are really busy. I was a working parent. I had 2 kids. We homeschooled our kids up until middle school. Our daughter went to school in middle school. Our son homeschooled all the way through. So yeah, I get being busy, totally get being busy. And I also get that there are seasons in your parenting life where you will be focused more on one thing or another. And I am not here to tell you what you should prioritize and what you should focus on. However, let me share a little bit about my bias about why I would personally prioritize anxiety. And that's because anxiety colors everything. It colors the way your family functions. It colors the way your child feels about themselves. Untreated anxiety, undealt with anxiety can lead to depression. It can lead to substance abuse problems. It can really do a number on your child's self-esteem, which is all to say, my bias as someone with a clinical mental health background is anxiety is super important. But the other reason I think it makes sense to target anxiety is because anxiety is robbing a whole lot of your family's time already. I know that it makes things more difficult. It makes parenting more difficult. It makes the day-to-day running of your family more difficult. Managing your child's anxiety takes a lot of time. Now, it's true when you decide to start focus on addressing the anxiety that you will get busier, because for a little while, you're going to be doing both. You're going to be learning about anxiety and learning how to deal with it at the same time that you are managing your child's anxiety and anxious behaviors. So things will be pretty intense there for a bit. But then the more you learn about anxiety, the more you make the necessary paradigm shifts so that you yourself can spot when anxiety is getting in the way and you know what to do when that happens, the easier things get. There is an initial outlay of attention and effort, but then the payoff is really huge. And you have to do this work. This work needs to get done. Again, anxiety colors everything. So when you start learning how to manage it, you'll get ease in all the places. The other thing about you learning about how to handle anxiety using the parenting coaching method of anxiety treatment, which has a strong research base, is that you learn those skills and you don't have to keep learning them over and over again, but you will be teaching them to your child over and over again. And anybody who has raised kids past, the first few stages knows that parenting is a lot of repetition. So you tell your kids, clean your room, and you keep telling them that throughout their life, but you mean different things. When they're little, it's just like, can you pick up your toys? And when you're bigger, it's like, can you organize more things? And when they're bigger, it's like, put away your laundry, learn how to fold it. I mean, you keep telling them to clean their room, but you teach them how to clean the room in new ways as they develop greater skills and as things get more challenging. Like, the things that a teenager needs to clean up are not the things that a 4-year-old needs to clean up. That's also how anxiety works. You learn the anti-anxiety coping tools. You learn the basics of cognitive behavioral therapy. You're not doing therapy with your kid, but CBT is just the name for the kinds of changes in thinking, the way that we attack the cognitive distortions, the way that we interrogate anxiety. But you learn those things and then you know them and you can bring them to your child. So just like cleaning, again, you know how to clean and you teach your child how to clean and you teach them over and over again and you up their skills as they go. But you have to know how to clean first. You need to have a basic understanding and then you share that with them. You guide them, you facilitate their learning. That is exactly how anxiety works too. As you learn those skills, you will be practicing them. So that's the other thing. It doesn't take as much time once you've learned the skills, because once you've learned them, then it's just practicing them. You just keep bringing them to the table. You just keep learning how to do them in new ways and in new contexts so that your child can learn how to use them as well. The same with exposures. Once you learn how exposures in child anxiety work, it becomes much easier to do them later on down the line. At the beginning, you might do it in a really structured way, in a really you sit down and you have your worksheet and you fill it out, but you won't need to do that every single time. You can, some people like to work that way, but your instincts will get better and better and better as you get that training. Now, the way I work with families is I use an app where we do asynchronous coaching. And I did this way in large part because getting parents access to this information was super challenging for me. So let me back up a little bit. As I said, I am trained as a clinical mental health counselor. I have been doing this work with families throughout my time as a clinical counselor. And I was doing that in a clinical way, which is every week or every couple of weeks. That's the 55 minutes working with the child, bringing the parent in, talking to the parent, and maybe getting some time where it's just me and the parent working. But this is all done in these chunks, in these therapeutic hourly chunks, which means the parent has to have time to bring the kid to me. The kid has to have time to come in, which means not during school hours. My hours not during school were pretty limited because everybody wants those hours. And it was really frustrating to me. During COVID lockdown, when I had a little more time on my hands, I started playing with the tech to try to figure out, is there a way I can work with parents that doesn't need my license, because my license limits how I can work with parents, that I can work beyond my clinical license and do this work in a way that meets parents where they're at. So I tried all these different forms. I tried regular old group Zoom so I could get more people in those really in-demand hours. That wasn't great because still people had dinner time and lunchtime and pick the kids up from school time. And I'd like to be able to watch TV now and then and say hello to my partner, all of that. And then I tried doing courses that were take at your own pace. But the truth is about courses is people don't finish them. I've done that too. During COVID, I signed up for all of these continuing education credits and I was going to take them all. And about, quarter of the way through, I lose steam. So I still have courses out there I haven't finished. And finally, I hit on this asynchronous coaching, which is the parent reaches out to me whenever they have a need, and then I respond within 24 hours. Usually it's much sooner than that. And I can answer as many questions as they have, as often as they have. So I take them through a lesson, and it's in audio form, a little bit like listening to a podcast. And then they listen to this lesson and they go, great. So tell me how that looks for my child. And I say, well, tell me more about what's going on. And we talk back and forth. And so they get that one-to-one support whenever they need it, which means it works whatever their schedule is, however busy they are. Now, the hard part is the stuff that they learn with me and talking to me, they do have to take out into the world and actually do with their child. But there I'm holding their hand too. So I say to them, maybe you could do that. This day sounds like a good time to try it. I wouldn't do it on that other day because you've got all this other stuff going on. And I think that's going to make it harder. Let's start this day and let's follow up. When we're doing exposures, we are doing them every day or almost every day because we need to have a consistency. And that way I'm with them in that exposure because they can message me. They can send me a voice text. They can even send me a video if they want to do that. And I'm able to hold their hand through it. The other thing I like about this is it is so much more affordable than working with me in that traditional hourly way, because my hourly rate, it's kind of expensive. It has to be. And this is much less expensive with much more guidance. Now, of course, I have to protect my license. So I called my licensing board and I said, can I work with parents this way? And they said, yes, you can, as long as you make it very clear to them, this is not counseling. You are not using your license. So I make that very clear. I, share that on these podcasts, but it's also in the intake information. I am not working under my license. This is not counseling. And it's not counseling in that we're not doing a whole lot of emotional processing, digging in and digging into why, how this developed, what is this bringing up for you. The basic course that we start with is one that is just working on those paradigm shifts, really changing the way the parent thinks about their child's anxiety and their child's capacity and their confidence in their child's ability to do it. And for some parents, that's enough. Once they have made that shift, once they have that understanding, once they've expanded their view of their child, they don't actually need more exposure training. But if they do, then we can go into the second part of the training, if that makes sense for the family. And that basic program is called Resiliency Sprint. And I love doing it. I see such big changes for families. I see such growth for them and for their kids. And it doesn't take that much time. But I like that because not only can the parent then drop into these lessons, but they can also invite another caregiver. So their partner or another caregiver, their co-parent, can also join, and they don't need to be there at the same time. They can listen to the lesson whenever they have the capacity to listen to the lesson. So I had one family where one parent was working from home and they would listen to the lesson while they were cleaning up breakfast after getting the kids off to school. And the other parent had a really long commute and they would listen to it on their commute. So they would both listen to it. And by the end of the day, they were on the same page. So by the time the parent who commuted walked in the door, maybe they had been messaging with me and with each other as well, since we're all part of that conversation. And so when that parent walked through the door, they had a plan for the evening. They knew what they were going to do. They had worked out any potential conflict. They had asked me their separate questions. And that family made such terrific progress that it didn't take that much time, because it was more about meeting them in the times that they had. And then they were able to do it. And maybe that's what you need too. Maybe that's what would help you do it. If you would like to explore that a little bit, if you'd like to talk to me about how the program works and try to see, do you have time for this as busy as you are? Is this something you have time for? I really hope you do, because like I said, it's really important that we tackle anxiety. It's my bias that it should be a priority for your family. No judgment if that's not where you're at right now. But if you are, or you'd like to be, please reach out to me and let's talk about it. And if you have a question you'd like me to answer on the podcast, please send it my way. Who knows, maybe I'll answer it on the show. Thanks.